Howdy, folks. I'm Brian, and here's some Reddit. Our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for thinking my wife should take some of the blame for missing her appointment? For context, my wife, 34-year-old female, has a heart rhythm disorder. It's been well controlled with medication and home care, but after a couple of scary ER visits, she decided it was time to see her cardiologist for an adjustment in her dosage and possibly a referral to an electrophysiologist. I'm a 42-year-old male and had known about this appointment since October of 2020. She booked the appointment in October, but couldn't be seen until February because they were so backlogged. I initially decided to take the whole day off because it was a 2-hour drive from where we live. Then I had a couple of projects that I still hadn't completed, so I told her I would go into work the day of her appointment and be out of there in no time to take her. The project took longer than anticipated, and as I worked, customers kept coming in and it became hard to get away. We needed to be on the road by 1 in the afternoon, and all of a sudden 1 came, then 1:30, then 2. She called and texted me several times, but I couldn't pick up and respond because, as I said, I was super busy. I finally got off of work a half hour after closing and came home to a very angry wife. She said she couldn't believe that I would not contact her about what was going on and leave things up in the air like that. And she was really mad that she had missed her appointment with a specialist that took ages to get into. Admittedly, I got a bit defensive, and I told her that if she didn't have to rely on me to take her and she could drive herself, none of this would be an issue. So it was not my fault that she missed her appointment. She didn't say much after that, but she looked hurt and has been quiet for the rest of the evening. I feel like I could have been wrong here because the reason she doesn't drive is because she can have an episode of this heart rhythm thing at any time and she's afraid of that happening and causing an accident. All right, OP. It's going to be really hard to give you any kind of benefit of the doubt here. I mean, you knew about this appointment since October, and you chose to go into work today, even though it seems like you have a busy job where things can get interrupted at any point in time. It seems like you allowed the customers to take the precedence over your wife, and you chose to assist them instead of apologizing to them and saying, oh, hey, I would really love to help you more, but I need to, cut out because I have an important medical appointment or something to that effect. Most people are going to be pretty understanding that you have a medical appointment to attend. Then to make matters worse, you didn't even respond to your wife at all. So you couldn't tell her what was going on. So she didn't know if you were in like an accident. She didn't know if you were like, stranded by the side of the road, or any number of things here could have happened. So you not only worried your wife, but you also made her miss an appointment that took her forever to get. I mean, we're talking about months. And meanwhile, basically, you decided, hey, let's gamble with my wife's life because I don't care enough. And that's really what it seems like here. Basically, your wife needs these appointments because she's had a couple of scary ER visits and she knows that her heart issues might be getting worse. And now think about how bad you're going to feel if she ends up in the ER again or worse. And, this may have been able to be prevented in the future, potentially, if you had gone to these appointments. So again, blaming your wife because she can't drive because of the medical issue that you were supposed to take her in about is ridiculous. Like, why are you blaming her for this medical issue that she has? I just can't see it. I mean, I guess the one place that she could have gone is like if she had like a heads up from you that she could have ordered a Uber or something like that to drive down there. It would probably have been really expensive to drive 2 hours in an Uber, but I guess like if you have no other choice, then you have no other choice. I mean, I feel bad for your wife here, and it seems like that you're a real self-centered jerk in this situation. You're the jerk. You misled her into believing you were going to help her and then disappeared for the day and made yourself unreachable. If she had known in advance that you were going to be useless to her, she could have arranged for alternative travel plans. Yeah, exactly. Like, you gave her no indication, so she had no way of being able to get herself down there. You're the jerk. Are you serious? The second you realized you weren't going to make that 1 p.m. departure, the onus was on you to get in touch with your wife and inform her. No, actually, considering how ridiculously controlling you've been about the whole thing, I told her I'd go into work. The second that happened, it became your job to arrange alternative transportation. And no, she didn't have to rely on you. You just did everything in your power to make her rely on you. Sigh, just one of these days, I'm waiting to see the relationship with the 10-year age difference where the much older male isn't the jerk. So I agree with what they're saying for the most part here. I think for their last sentence here, just one of these days, I'm waiting to see a relationship with a 10-year age gap where the much older male isn't the jerk. I think that you're going to see a lot of confirmation bias on a Reddit page like this. The trouble is, like, you're not going to encounter successful, happy relationships probably on Am I the Jerk forum. So if you're looking for that, then, I mean, you're not going to find it. Like, that's just probably what it boils down to. There are plenty of relationships out there probably with, age gaps that are happy and healthy. So this forum just happens to be not one of those places that you're going to find it. Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Kicking My Stepbrother and His Friends Out After What They Did at My Engagement Party? I'm a 30-year-old male and I have a younger stepbrother, Kevin. He's 22. I let him move into my old apartment and pay cheaper rent along with his 2 friends because they're struggling with college. They needed a cheaper place but couldn't find one. I'd help him out by getting his car fixed, lending him money, and bringing him meals. I take care of my mom, who is at the hospital. My fiancé and I decided to have a small celebration at a restaurant. 8 people. There were a lot of people I wanted to include, including my mom, but couldn't. I have high blood pressure, and despite medication, it gets worse. Kevin wanted to bring his friends to my engagement party. I declined and I explained that we were having a small celebration. He was upset and then dropped it. We got to the restaurant and just as we started eating, I get a call from Kevin saying that he's at the hospital where my mom's staying. I asked him why and he sounded worried, telling me that mom was very sick and that I needed to get there because it seemed like she was having a stroke. I dropped my fork. My fiancée and her parents noticed how pale I was. I hung up, and I was getting ready to leave. They asked what was going on, and I told them that my mom was very sick and I needed to go to the hospital. The fiancée wanted to come along, but I didn't take her. I got there, and I went to the nurse who were handling my mom's care, and they denied her having any sudden issues, let alone a stroke. I couldn't stand on my feet. I called Kevin several times until he picked up. He started laughing along with the others in the background. I was confused, and he told me it was a prank and that I fell for it. He said that we're even since he couldn't show up to my engagement party. I started yelling at him till he hung up. My fiancé's parents were calling, and I felt terrible because I didn't know what to tell them. It was a prank. My fiancé's family thought I was lying, and I kept saying that my mom was doing okay. I drove to my apartment where Kevin was staying. I got into an argument with him and his buddies. I yelled at them for ruining my engagement dinner and causing me stress knowing that I have high blood pressure. I told them to pack their things and move out. Kevin started begging me, saying that I can't do this over a prank and that they had nowhere to go. I told them that it wasn't my problem. They kept saying that it was a prank, and they didn't expect me to react like that. Then they left. My aunt called me saying that Kevin was a jerk for what he did, but kicking him out was extreme and that I was too harsh on him. That he's my brother and that I need to be supportive of him even though he's acting stupid. I take some of the blame, as my fiance said, because they did things like this before, and that I should have stopped them, but I couldn't imagine it going this far. Kevin's mom is deceased, and I help him wherever I can because I know he's struggling. His aunt isn't my biological aunt, but I respect her enough to consider her family. But defending this behavior isn't acceptable. Alright, OP. I'm probably going to err on the side to say that you're not the jerk here, but I think that you may have some legal issues if you kick him out, if he's paying rent. Because while if there's no lease that's signed, that doesn't necessarily mean he isn't a paying tenant and, has rent. So you may have a legal battle if he decides to take you to court, because in a lot of places, at least in the area that I am, that if you kick someone out of an apartment, even though they're paying rent, they're still considered a tenant, and there may not be a lease, but you still can't kick them out like that without notice. So you may have some issues with eviction. That might be a little bit of an uphill struggle. Certainly what your stepbrother did here is completely unacceptable. He caused you undue stress. He could have caused you a heart attack, or any number of things. I don't know what exactly your high blood pressure involves, but this certainly wasn't a harmless joke. It was certainly something that was not good for your health. And it sounds like he's done these kind of pranks before, so maybe you should have been a little bit more apprehensive about him, but it's really hard to be apprehensive when you're being told that your mother is dying in a hospital. So I can certainly see why you would rush over there and, try to find him immediately. But the thing that I would question here is, if your mother is in the hospital and you take care of her, then it would seem like the hospital would be the organization that would call you and not necessarily Kevin. So no, I don't think you're a jerk here. I think Kevin is being dumb, but it is a bit of this is hard because you're doing all this great stuff for your brother and you're helping him and you're being kind, and here he is acting like a complete moron, causing you undue stress and ruining your engagement party. And he ruined it because he couldn't be invited along. And this prank and I use this very loosely, was just not a prank. It was in poor taste. And honestly, I don't know what the acceptable level of recourse against him is here. I don't know if kicking him out of the house is the acceptable level of recourse. It's really hard. Legally, I don't think you're in the right. Morally, I don't know if you're in the right. So I think this one's a little difficult, but I do think that you're certainly not the jerk in this situation that Kevin is. Yeah, I think he has a lot of making up to do here. Are you kidding me with this post? I believe you. It's too insane to make up. I have no words other than, obviously not the jerk, obviously. Let your aunt take him in instead. Yes, hasn't even apologized, not the jerk. Well, we may not know if he's apologized or not. It sounded like he was begging not to be kicked out. But he kept saying, oh, it's a prank, it's a prank, it's a prank. And, we all know it's not a prank. Yeah, the level of prank that this was, telling you that your mother is dying, it's really not a prank, and it's really in poor taste. Not the jerk, Kevin sounds cruel, and I wouldn't want to live with that kind of nastiness. What he did wasn't a prank. It was cruel, and on an important, meaningful day for you. He didn't expect you to react like that. He made you think your mom was really sick and disrupted your engagement dinner. He surely knows you're on blood pressure medication. Anyone knows that you don't purposely try to scare someone who has high blood pressure. It's dangerous. Kevin is acting childish and needs to grow up. He can start by finding his own place to live on his own. Yeah, I think that this person brings up a lot of good points. But I would like to point out that he's not actually living with Kevin. Kevin's in a different apartment. All right, our last letter is titled, Am I a jerk for not telling my girlfriend about a scholarship because I thought she could get it instead of me? I am an 18-year-old male and my girlfriend is a 17-year-old female, and we are from some country that's really hard to get out of. We have been looking for ways to study abroad for a long time with no avail. So we settled for local universities and agreed to get out of here once we graduated. About a month and a half ago, I decided to give it another shot. I bought some scholarship finder behind some paywall and put in my country of origin, and bam, I stumbled upon an exclusive full scholarship for 2 people only from my country. Reading through it, it said that if most things were equal, then the female student would be preferred and selected. And knowing me and my girlfriend's stats are quite close, I decided not to tell her, and I applied, not expecting to be accepted at all. Last week, I got an email telling me that I was selected for that very generous scholarship. I haven't told my girlfriend yet because I'm convinced it will probably damage our relationship. So, I want to do it in the least damaging way possible. I feel really guilty because me and my girlfriend already agreed and set up most things, including where and how we would stay together, in the same apartment that we were going to rent. Am I the jerk, Reddit? Because I sure feel like one. Alright, OP. I think you already know the answer here, and I think the answer is yes. You probably are the jerk in this situation. You should have at least given your girlfriend an opportunity to apply for the scholarship, because who knows, you both could have earned it. It sounds like this is a scholarship abroad, and that you're going to be leaving her, and she's not going to have anyone to help her with the apartment or any of that kind of stuff, which I think is a really bad thing to do someone. I think that you need to give people plenty of notice if you're not going to be able to fill your obligations. So, yeah, I don't think what you did here was necessarily the best thing. I think you should have run it by your girlfriend ahead of time if you're, were at all interested in salvaging your relationship. I think it's going to be really hard for her knowing that you got this opportunity and that you didn't even tell her about this opportunity. And yeah, so that's how I'm kind of looking at it, as I really feel like you probably should have given her a heads up and even given her an opportunity, because who knows, you both could have earned it and then you may have been able to go together. So, but now, she's kind of stuck behind and you haven't really provided any kind of compensation to her for staying by herself. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving me a like. If you didn't, consider giving me a dislike. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow. We are just doing so good of a job at reading tonight.